Hi, everyone, and welcome to Andy Gorman Golf One Putt podcast. We're here today to talk Tour Talk, and Tour Talk is back because the tournaments are back. We're going to Kapalua for the Champions event. Oh, Crikey's got one of those titles that you can never remember. Right, but we're back with the tour winners from 2020. We've got winners to announce from the Seymour giveaway with Four Counties Golf. So listen out for that. We're talking Tour Talk with regards to equipment. We're talking wedges and putters, of course, as we do, but we're talking about the big news story of the last 24 hours. It is not lockdown. It is the fact that Jon Rahm has moved from TaylorMade to Callaway. That's the big news story. That's what we're talking about. We'll catch up with you in the show. Hi, and welcome to the Andy Gorman Golf One Putt podcast. And I'm here to celebrate the start of a new year with my good friend and wingman, Gareth. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, Andy. How's yourself?
I'm all right. I think I'm a little battle weary. I've had about 12 hours, I suppose. I didn't sleep much last night, trying to figure out a plan going forward. Because if you don't know, UK's in lockdown. And for whatever reason, that's decided to be the case. It's not for me to question. It just means that golf is shut down again. So we're going into lockdown 3. And I guess in lockdown 3, we've got to step up to the plate. So we're going to share with our friends on air what we're going to be doing in lockdown 3. Of course, the weather's not exactly on our side, not like it was in lockdown 1, or even lockdown 2, to be fair, because that was only a few weeks ago. So yeah, we're not making it up as we go along, but we haven't set the battle plan into action just at the moment. But we are definitely working things through. But we've still got plenty of things to talk about, of course. Tour Talk. That season starts. Okay, we only just finished, haven't we? 2020. I think that took forever. I like the fact that actually we're going to see a season, and certainly the European tour, because we've had South Africa in the past, and kick-starting tours before the actual calendar season. But calendar season's actually going to be done in the calendar year, assuming that we don't get any peculiar lockdowns like we had globally, back in the beginning part of 2020. So, all things being equal, I think we should be able to look forward to a golfing season, a sports season that will continue, without too much disruption, really. I think we've got, the sporting bodies have got a battle plan to be able to cope and bubble and contain and do all that they need to do. So I'm hoping that will be the case, and I'm sure that you're going to be able to steer me and help me along the way, Gareth, as we get through. We've got some great stuff to talk about. We've got our 2021 winner, our Christmas/New Year season winner from Seymour and Four Counties Golf, along with yours truly, because we'll be doing a fitting. But unfortunately, we've got to wait for the handover of the putter and the fitting, because he wants to come to the studio, but we'll announce our winner there. But Tour Talk, let's get going with some Tour Talk.
Oh, yeah. I don't know about you, but I love this time of year. It's like when I was growing up and football teams would bring the new strip out. You'd be in anticipation of like, yes, what strip is it going to be? It's the same with the players of whose bag they're going to be playing this year. And we've had a big one announced yesterday from Callaway. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that one?
It was a bit of a shock, to be honest with you. That was definitely a left field. One, like I say, I never saw that coming. In the situation that we're in today, I did see coming, and we've had conversations about it for the last few weeks. But Jon Rahm going to Callaway from TaylorMade. Like I say, never saw it coming. I thought that was a pretty solid bag. An icon player, so not a small money player. Current world number 2. Yep. But he's been testing the equipment during what has been a very limited off season, and allegedly he's already shot 59 with his new clubs. I did note that his old putter's still in the bag. His Spider, but of course, at some point, I'm pretty sure he's on a 14-club contract. So, there will be implementation of an Odyssey putter in there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good coup for both. Callaway, a major brand, of course, and John Rahm, a major player. So yeah,
he's not going to be wearing Adidas either. He's going to be wearing Travis Matthews as well. So he's going the full kind of Callaway range of brands.
Okay, all right. I mean, yeah. I mean, look, it's a quality bag, isn't it? He was particularly shouting about the golf ball, which I thought was he using TaylorMade before?
He was using TP5X.
That's
for
right.
The kind of that version. To be honest, I've tried the Callaway Chrome Soft X. I just felt it was very firm. Felt very firm off the club face, and especially off the wedges and the.
You've got to be able to generate more than 100 mile an hour, mate. That's what it is.
Right.
And the fact that John Rahm can probably do it with a 7-iron is irrelevant.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is a ball that I've not hit the X, but I've hit the triple track, and well, of course, it's an old. Look, I mean, it's generationally still a top flight derivative golf ball. It's come from the top flight plant of balls, and I know it is. I'm going to get slated for that, but it is still a derivative of the top flight. I loved the top flight golf balls, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
So whether it was the performance ball, the 90 SD, and of course the Strata. And then they had the Ben Hogan golf ball.
Andy. Strata was a great ball.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate. I was one of the first golf professionals here in the UK, 96, to actually have a dozen golf balls and go out and play with them. And the golf balls launched at the Belfry here in the UK, and I was invited as a staff player at the time to go and play a few holes at the Belfry. I think we ended up playing 18 holes, if I remember rightly, and a bit of a sort of canapes and drinks afterwards. And yes, it was a mainstay in my bag for another 5 years or so. In fact, I went from the Strata to the Ben Hogan ball with the 6 hexagon dimples, the deeper dimples in that, and I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic golf ball for me. Certainly at the time was the most stable ball that I played, and it was just a surefire. I mean, it was just one of those golf balls that I was able to sort of comfortably control. That was really what it was all about for me. So John Rahm going to Callaway. Look, we know a lot of people will move around equipment over 2 or 3 year period. He's the first of the big names. It's interesting that does that leave the way for Justin Rose to come back to TaylorMade, or is he going to stay a free agent as such? I know there was talk that he was testing some clubs before Christmas from other brands. So
did you see the TaylorMade Christmas card, Andy? Because that kind of gave it away of almost the icon players who were going to be the stable for this year. And Rahm wasn't on it. Jason Day wasn't on the card.
I did see. And was Tiger on it?
Tiger was on it. Tommy comes in. So Tommy Fleetwood comes in.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I did notice that Tommy was in, and I did think that. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, to be honest with you. There were other things sort of clearly on my mind. I saw it at a glance, really, and I did note that Jason Day wasn't on. And I could tell that there was a few notable players not there. I saw Tommy was there, but I didn't. That's why I say, I had to ask the question about, was Tiger on there? Is it a case of, are these guys doing what they're doing? It is the merry-go-round season for equipment, and will be interesting to see. I think the day is here that players are going to be a little bit more free agent. We've talked about it in the past, and I think it's one of those scenarios really that we have to be accepting that players are not necessarily going to play with, equipment as a whole bag equipment deal. And, you know, seeing some of the putters that are, you know, in and out of bags, and noting that one of the top players, you know, on the PGA Tour, Tony Finau, is not sporting a ping putter in the bag, which was always part of the deal. You know, I think they were 11 club deals, but you had to play a driver and a wedge and a putter, if I recall correctly. So I noticed that some of the guys now are not necessarily using, you know, the wedges, albeit maybe one in there. You know, and I think that gives them a little bit of flexibility, and I like the fact that, you know, Ping allow that. You know, but the fact that the driver's in the bag, and look, there's a lot of players who were using those, you know, 410, 400, 410, now 425, you know, are not assigned to equipment deals, are using that, so you can tell the pedigree of that driver. These days, as a free agent, if you've got a choice, then you will try all the drivers. But you know, couple of notable drivers. I mean, you know, they're not known as equipment manufacturers. Certainly don't want to be known as equipment manufacturers in Titleist. And yes, yet the TSI 3, if I remember rightly, if that's the right one particular model, is, you know, jumping in and out of the bags of many a free agent, and being recognised as one of the banging drivers, I suppose, is as good a term as any. It's you know, maybe even the Cobra
Rad Speed, the new Rad Speed one.
Yeah. So you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, you know, and I think Cobra's a shout out brand as well. I think that they have got some really solid equipment, and an area of the game which I thought was weak, you know, up until, well, certainly recently in some of the images that I've seen, was their wedges, and they look like they have some really good gaming wedges now. So, you know, I'm, you know, particularly keen to be able to see, you know, who maybe switches, and, you know, obviously they've got Ricky and they've got Bryson, and, you know, will other players jump on the bandwagon, and will that driver be a gaming driver?
Jason Day would be a nice fit, I think, for Cobra.
Oh, that's a good shout. There's a good shout. Yeah, be interesting to see where he goes. If he's not going to stay with, you know, with TaylorMade and be part of their icon staff, it will be very much intriguing to see where he decides to go.
Or like you said, a free bag. I could see him with a free bag as well.
Yeah, and it may well be. I mean, he's always played, if I can recall, he's always played a branded bag, which, you know, is something that, you know, generally is.
I think it's Zurich off the top of my head. I think it's Zurich.
Zurich now, is it? Yeah. So yeah, and that, you know, that sometimes I think is the writing on the wall. You know, when somebody decides a bag to go. I mean, like Tiger, you know, back in the day, always had the, you know, Buick bag, didn't he? And you know, sort of obviously hasn't had that for a number of years, and, you know, branding another brand these days, and, you know, whatever purpose, all down to money. At the end of the day, it's beneficial to both brands, and, you know, I've got no issue with that. And you obviously endorse the products that you feel comfortable with. And, you know, it is the major platform, isn't it? You know, I mean, if you look at the amount of golf bags that are out there that are free bags now, you know, then there's a lot of golfers out there doing that. So,
did you find it hard as a kind of putting and short game specialist when players switched equipment?
And did I find it hard? There were times, the biggest issue for me, as you know, has always been down to whether the putter fits. So when a player switches, mostly, I didn't really have any major issues when players switch wedges, because they generally don't. It's quite funny. They may switch a brand, but they don't switch a style. So the club looks very similar. They'll be in there, they'll be talking to the guys and saying, you're right, okay, well, the final grind, I want it to look a little bit like this. In fact, actually what they're doing is they're saying, look, I want this tailor-made to look like this Vokey, that's what they, because there's something visual about a wedge that creates its playability, and the way that it sounds when it hits the turf and the sand, that's down to obviously bounce, grind interactions, with the sole of the club. So that's not necessarily visual. When you're looking down on it, you want the leading edge to be in just the right place relative to the shaft. And, I'm not on my own on that. There's a lot of things, where the bulge on the top of the crown of the club, which obviously on a wedge is just the very top edge of the club, but how rounded or how straight or how deep into the heel, how high versus the toe. All of those little characteristics create in the mind a player's ability to be able to play that club. I mean, I can remember when, I first saw the dyadic wedges from Cleveland, and I remember putting them down. I can remember putting a 56 wedge down and thinking, I can't hit that more than about 60 yards. And I've got a 58-degree club in my own bag, and, and I'm looking at it going, but I can hit this 100. So why does it look like I can't now? Because it looked like this 56 wouldn't go more than 60 yards. It didn't. And so, the brain has to be in the process of being able to contend with what it's looking at and get the results that it wants to get rather than the results it believes it's going to get. Did it mean that I had versatility in a club because it would only go a relatively short distance? And of course, we go and measure it. You see, it's bang on 56 degrees aloft, and the lie angle's just right, and you can play these lovely bunker shots, but it doesn't go anywhere. So he's playing all these shots around the greens that you want it to do, but he doesn't go anywhere in flight. And yet, another club, the club that I was comparing it with, was a Ram Beryllium Copper Tom Watson series, and it was just, I don't know why, that this club just would not get out there. It had no, it just didn't, it wasn't that it looked weak. It just didn't look like it was ever going to fly anywhere.
Yeah.
A little bit like some 64s do. When you put them down, you just know that it's all about, spin, elevation, flight, control around the vicinity of the greens rather than the actual flight into the greens from good distance. So yeah, wedges, generally players more inclined to play something very similar.
Yeah.
When it comes to putters, there is often an inclination to change the style, especially if the styles that they've been using have gone off the boil a little bit. So, if I'm looking at a club that's, a blade type or heel and toe sort of Anza style putter, and then, for whatever reason, things are not working out, well, I may well want to switch to a mallet. That's generally not my pattern, but, why wouldn't I? Or I go a little offset. Well, of course, then there's some adaptations you've got to make. If you're used to a center shafted putter that's onset with the shaft in front of the head in front of the shaft, now you've gone offset. So there's a 15, 20 mil difference between the alignment of the shaft and the front edge of the club. That's going to change the position of the golf ball in your stance because of the rotation phase. Yeah. That will be different in the face. And, we can talk about that, another time, but, what differentiates a putter. But, crucially, when a player changes, does it affect his posture? And as long as, the profile of the head to shaft doesn't change, then, and the length doesn't change, then the player can use whatever club he wants, she wants, and get the same stroke mechanics doing the thing, and you're just changing the visuals, which hopefully then changes something, fortune, whatever it is, maybe alignment. And that's one of the things that you will get from changing the head style. But also, if you offset the head or you onset the head, you change that head style and you get this variant that, then affects how it looks and potentially how it aligns. And when you're able to change alignment factors, delivery can sometimes be a little bit more efficient as well. And oftentimes it starts aiming in the wrong place. The brain knows it, but the eyes haven't seen it, and the player hasn't registered it. And all of a sudden, we're making adaptations in the stroke. So if we can get into a place where we're aiming correctly and we can free flow the stroke and just let that putter swing through, then it becomes so much easier to to adapt from one to another. And, that's my recommendation for anybody is know where the shaft's going into the head, know the relationship between the face and the shaft, get the length right. The lie angle and the loft are easy to adapt with. But, if you start changing the length, you start changing your posture, and that affects the ability for the body to work within the stroke, the brain to free things up. And, that's where we, ultimately will end up losing out. So that was always my bugbear with players on tour. And that was where, I would clash heads with, the manufacturers, because they'd bring a 34-inch putter out for a guy 6'1". And when that happens, we're on a battle to start with, and the player doesn't want a battle on the green. He wants to be able to know that, hey, this club is built, fitted, bang, ready to go. I like that. Put it in the bag, rather than it goes back to the truck and, it's getting adjusted and maybe not adjusted correctly, or, how are we adjusting it? It's going to affect the weight, is the, all the things. Because if he likes it when he puts it in his hands, albeit it's not the right length, then there's an element of, I don't really want to change that because I like it, but actually it's affecting your posture. So now your stroke's going to change. And it's a little bit like how a player fits into a putt, into a driver. If within 3 to 6 swings, he hasn't got it, take it off him. Because now between 6 and 12 swings, he's going to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the challenges that, and recreational golfer, albeit less so, will do the same thing. So he goes and spends, 500 or 600, it could be as much as 500 or 600 pounds on a driver. But let's just say 300 pounds on a driver. Whatever money you're spending it, if you cannot hit it in the first 3 or 4 swings, stop, because it doesn't suit you. And it may take you 10 swings to hit a couple of good shots, and then you'll hit a couple more and a couple more and a couple more. Go and grab your 7-iron and see if you can't hit that anything like. And if, that may well be telling you something, about the way that club fitting works, differently from, shops to tour. And, you've got to know, player knows very, very quickly, within a couple of shots, within a couple of swings, within a couple of strikes, they'll know the difference between the head, the ball, all these little characteristics in terms of feel. So, I don't know if it's worth having a look at, and if we can pull it up, we will do. But, Tiger testing the Bridgestone ball a couple of years ago now, when he switched to XS, how he determined the difference between why he was going with that ball versus, another ball, and, what it took, and how he immediately casts off some of the balls. It's no, not having it. I don't like the sound of it. And it is, we know with the Bridgestone test that we did a couple of months ago, that getting the golf ball dialed in, is largely down to sound, because when you hit a golf ball at 115 mile an hour, what else are you getting? There's an element of feel, but a lot of feel. If you plug your ears, a lot of feel comes out your ears. So, if you plug your ears, does that golf ball sound different? Well, yeah, because you can't hear anything, you plug them. So if you, practice and hit golf balls with your AirPods in, and you're listening to some music, you're missing a crucial part of your ball strike, which is the sound, the quality of the strike, the compression, all the things that come out of hitting a golf ball well, invariably is out of your, into your ears. So, it is one of those peculiar parts of, how the brain and body come together with the visuals. You may see a slight dimple pattern difference, or it's like color change. There's a difference, but until you've picked it up, I mean, you've seen me do the bite test, jiggle it around in my teeth, and if my teeth don't fall out, it's soft enough, and if they do, it's maybe going to go a bit further. So, that first part of, of course, that then resonates some noise and feelings that I'm getting going into here, that I can bounce the ball on the club, and all of a sudden, we've got some, before we've even hit a proper good, bad, or indifferent shot, effectively we've got an idea how that golf ball's going to perform. So a lot of things with regards to that, are a big deal.
What are your thoughts on now with these kind of the wedges? I think they're going back in terms of traditional look and style and feel. I know a lot of the manufacturers at the moment are promoting the raw finish, or this.
Yeah.
If you let it rust, you'll get more spin. What's your thoughts? Is it marketing hoodoo, or does it really
I think
make
when
a
it
difference?
comes to the No, I think, we've got data to suggest that, there is a bit more grip on there. At the end of the day, the grip's coming out of the sharpness of the grooves. So, and sometimes, rust can fill the grooves. So there is an element of, keeping those grooves clean, and that also includes the rust element of it. So get your wire brushing. But the sharpness of the grooves ultimately is one of the challenges that we have to contend with. So, as long as the grooves are not worn, I think there's something to be said for, the harder materials, retaining a sharper edge. But the player doesn't necessarily relate to the fact that the harder material is going to give him the feel around the greens, but it will give him more spin. So, there's a trade-off. Again, it comes down to the sound elements. And now this isn't necessarily just the golf ball that's resonating or changing the resonance, it's the material as well. So when you use some of the harder carbon steels versus some of the stainless steels, or the forge versus cast, I mean, they're going to make a very subtle difference to how things sort of play out, really. So, when we've got, equipment that works for us, then that's fine. I always used to be a fan of the rusty club. I like the raw finish. The problem with the raw finish is that you've lost that stability that the chrome and the nickel plating adds to the club. So it is softer, so it will wear, it'll dink and dent and sort of damage. It'll also bend a little bit more freely, so you're having to constantly be able to check the lie and the loft significantly, because they will move as well. And on the wedges, it's probably even more important that the things stay dialed in, because of the way the bounce interacts. And you add a bit of loft, you add a bit of bounce, you take a bit of loft off, you lose some bounce, and that's going to affect how that golf club performs, on and around the greens. And I think there's a lot more to be said for that. But equipment, generally speaking, is very stable, it's very strong, and it is more than adequate to be able to do its job. So yeah, I mean, for me, if I had the option on a raw finish, I probably would. Likewise, I've had options on, sort of stealth finish clubs before now, black heads. I like it. I like the way it darkens. And I like that, especially when a club is angled up at you, then that's, generally speaking, it either has to be a dull satin finish, if it is sort of the standardish type finish, or, a dull, dark, rusty or blackened finish in its own right, because when you've got the face staring up at you, and we've got a little bit of sunlight, about the 4 days a year that we have it here, then that could be blinding. So, that's one of the reasons why I like those, the darkening heads, but, or the rusty heads. But yeah, I'm not an advocate that I've got to go out and have every single club go rusty, but I've got no problem with every club going rusty if that was the case.
Yeah. And I imagine they're just trying different ideas as well, aren't they? They're almost going back to the drawing board.
So we have also this week the start of the tour in America, PGA Tour, Champions Week, or
it's Century Tournament of Champions. It's
there you
called.
Go. There's a mouthful. And ultimately, it's in Kapalua, the Plantation Course again, I think.
Yes, yeah,
and it's it's a little bit like popping back to Augusta, isn't it? We're comfortable with it. We're familiar with it. Players, those that have been out there or have won before, of course, there'll be a few first timers out there. Players. I always find it funny. Why would a player not want to do it? It's like, why would you not want to go? I mean, crikey, if for a start, it's Hawaii. Don't think it's too bad out there. You know, weather always seems to be kind of reasonable at this time of the year. There is another tournament in Hawaii a week later as well. It tends to be the kicker of the season because obviously those that are tournament winners from last year get a chance to play. But I always find it surprising. I always find it surprising that, you know, golfers don't want to play it. You know, I mean, it's like, why would you not want to play it? I mean, you know, you don't need to play it, I suppose, and I suppose you're banking on being able to win again. But you know, it's
because there's no cut. There's no cut either, is there? So
yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for players getting an opportunity to get 4 rounds in quickly. You know, even if you are of the pedigree of the player, if you've had a previous win, that's fine. But you know, a win previous year, that's fine. But you know, get out there and get 4 rounds competitively under your belt again, without the pressure of trying to make a cut. And you know, at least when you're winning tournaments, you shouldn't be under pressure to make a cut. But it happens. And I think it's one of those things that we just have to be, as a player, mindful of. You know, getting off to a quick start, getting a few bucks in the bank, and you know. But you know, you generally find those that are missing it don't have to worry about the bucks in the bank. So
yeah,
you know, it's you know. But I've always found it a little bit of a surprise. You wouldn't want to get off to a flyer, you know, fairly quickly. So
and I'm looking forward to you. Yeah, imagine what you were talking about before about equipment as well. It's a good opportunity to test some of the new gear in the bag without the pressure of a kind of 2-day cut, and then you've got to try and make some money.
Yeah, you know, I think that is it. You know, just getting used to just see how the equipment performs. I think also on the flip side of that, because it's where it is, you can't dial that equipment in either, and potentially rather than sort of be maybe left wanting with your new equipment, that also detracts from it. So, you know, when a player's trying something new, you know, they're dialing in the equipment, they're working it out, they're trying to get this little tweak, that little tweak, and there's no trucks. You know, that's not to say that there isn't some kind of presence out there. I'd imagine there is, but you know, you kind of go in there a little bit on a whim, and maybe that's why, you know, if you don't feel comfortable that your clubs are quite dialed in and, you know, want to compete, that'd be a place for you to find it. And if you've then got a battle, you know, 4 rounds and then following week another 2 because you're likely to miss the cut because you've lost your confidence, you know, maybe that's just one of the reasons why the players do, you know, duck out. Maybe, you know, they're not comfortable, they can get the equipment dialed in quickly, you know, early enough. You know, maybe that's the case. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I've never been fortunate to have a player going out there because I'd have asked for a week's holiday.
That would have been very nice.
I'd have gladly gone, all expenses paid, but no wages. So, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see that. You know, I don't know who the field are at the moment.
Very strong Brahms there, the DJs there, all the major players that you'd expect to see are there, which is great.
Yeah, and I think you may well find that, you know, a lot of players are going to play in events that they wouldn't have done ordinarily because they can, but because they don't know, you know, quite what's around the corner. We never did we? You know, this year we didn't know what was around the corner. You know, when you could set your schedule, and it's like, yeah, no problem at all. Now it's like a bit of a free for all at the early part of the season. Maybe that's what's in the heads of the players. You know, they've got one eye on over their shoulder, going like, will we play Augusta? You know, again, will it have an opportunity to, you know, will America lock down? You know, or will the traveling circus that is the tour, you know, be able to contain itself in the bubble the same way that, you know, it did, you know, through last year? Because with all due respect, I mean, they did manage the COVID scenario extremely well. Same in the European tour. I mean, we had very few fallout. You know, oftentimes it was only because of travel, you know, and, you know, questionable test results, you know, were there any of that? Were any that slipped through the net? I don't know, possibly, but, you know, some that didn't, and some that were pulled back in, said, no, you're positive, that maybe they weren't necessarily. Look, you know, all things being equal, I think you got a fair crack of the whip. And if you were tested positive, you were tested again. And if you were tested positive again, I think you got, you know, sidelined for a couple of weeks. And that's fair enough. You know, but if that's the case, with all the tests that took place, I think there was a stat done just before Christmas with all the test results that went through, there were literally just a handful of positives, you know. So, you know, it's pretty impressive, really, you know, to think that, you know, in all of that testing that took place, everybody being tested every week, more than once, you know, that ultimately you know, that we managed to keep the tours infection free. And that then said, when you look at it, is everybody staying within the rules and parameters. See, what golfers do really well is stay within the rules and parameters. You know, that's the bit that I really like about golf, you know, is that we've got a rule book. Most of us haven't spent much time in it in recent years, if at all. I mean, I used to read it from cover to cover as a kid. You know, certainly if there was anything new, I knew about it. You know, it was, you know, that I think is absolutely crucial. You know, you've got a handle on the rules, but then guys didn't jump ship and go backwards and forwards and go out reveling and partying like we see in other sports, footballers. You know, just because, you know, you think you can, you know, and then you go and infect the whole of your team. You know, I think at that point, you know, we don't need individuals to go down with it, and we don't need, and because they're individuals and they're contractors of their own destiny, they don't take chances. You know, it's, I think how many weeks are actually lost in Formula One? You know, maybe 6-8 weeks of all. Obviously, Lewis did. I think Perez lost out somewhere along the line, and maybe one or two others. You know, a couple of the teams obviously lost, you know, crew personnel. You know, but they managed it. I think, you know, that's one of the things that we can definitely say about the, you know, the tour, European Tour, you know, PGA Tour, LPGA, you know, LET, you know, all managed this. You know, once they decided we're going back, we're doing it, you know, we're going to do it right. These are the rules, these are the regulations, abide by them and you can play. Don't abide by them and you're going to fall foul, you know, then obviously, you know, it panned out really well. So, you know, fair play to everybody, you know, who abided by those. And that's the difference, I think, between golf and some sports like football.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's discipline, isn't it? You know, ultimately.
Yeah. What about our winner, Andy? Our competition
I was just
winner?
going to say, you know, well, you know, can we bring it up and sort of replay, you know, sort of how that all span out, you know?
We'll get the spinning dial on. We'll get the spinning.
I love that. You know, I mean, it was literally, you know, super. Look, I'm going to have the liberty of being able to roll it out. I'll pull it onto to my Insta feed.
The Wheel of Fortune.
Roll it out again. You know, because I thought it was just fab. You know, how we managed to, you know, put everybody's name into the hat, and then it was on our way. Where are we? There we go. So look at that. I mean, it's just awesome. Modern technology, I mean, it's superb, isn't it? And of course, you know, ultimately, our big winner was Big Oggy Golf. So we've been in touch. God bless him. He's bitterly disappointed because, of course, he's in Cornwall, which is, well, he's Land's End, actually, near enough, which is about as far away as you can get from me, apart from going to John O'Groats up north. I think he's got about a 6.5 hour drive to come and get to me. Guess what? He doesn't want to do it remotely. He wants to come and see me. I think he's going to play some golf as well, which we may fully participate in and sort of get him into the fit in, and then we'll go and have a game of golf and maybe throw that in together. So he doesn't know. I haven't said that to him yet, but why not? Opportunity for him to test his new putter out. If I can build it on site for him at the same time, would be pretty awesome. But yeah, so, you know, great opportunity. He's got a YouTube channel as well, which is great. He's a high handicap golfer. Going to be a lot of fun, but, you know, have him up for the day, you know, and let him go through the experience of the tour fitting process that we would do, and build him a putter for him to be able to see. And I'm sure he'll put something out on his YouTube channel with that. It's just a mad keen golfer, and I love mad keen golfers. So I'm just desperately disappointed that he can't come up and do it sometime soon. But hey, it'll be close enough to the start of the golf season when he does, and it'll be a great opportunity for us to be able to sort of do that, and maybe the weather's a little bit brighter, and we can get out on the golf course in some nice weather and test it out on that day. So yeah, looking forward to that. I want to say a big thanks to Melvin and Four Counties Golf, and of course Seymour Putters for donating the Classic Series putter for Big Oggy to get on there and do it, and experience the whole thing as well. So thanks for your help in pulling that together as well, Gareth.
No,
it's always nice to start the new year with something nice and positive. And likewise, then, is coaching programs. If you're locked down, you can still learn, you can still improve. And putting, you might not get a chance to do your short game in the backyard at the moment because it's a little bit chilly. Some of us have still got snow on the ground. It's chilly enough outside that you really wouldn't want to be practicing outside, but if you needs must, then you can. And of course, if you've got a studio in the basement or your garage or wherever, spare room or summer room or garden room or whatever it is that you've got, you can practice your short game. As a putting and short game specialist, I am experienced for over 6 years and been able to deliver online learning and remote learning that I've been doing over the last 6 years has produced this effective results. I'm going to say the same results as if you were face to face in the studio. So the putting is really easy when you can do it in your living room or in your little swing room or wherever it might be. Wherever you can get a putter to roll the ball 10, 15 feet across the carpet, you can improve your putting no end. We've got some drills that are coming for you in all sorts of manners. If you haven't already, sign up to my newsletter on my website, andygormangolf.com, because then you can get access to the putting myths. Everything that you've ever learned that helped you to miss every single putt you've missed is in the putting myths. Everything you know about putting is in there, all right? And it's a myth. It's the reasons why you keep missing putts. And of course, then the solutions are available, in all sorts of different formats. You can either dial in remotely and have a one-to-one remote coaching through formats similar to this, or you can access the direct remote learning process, which is the video series that we've got available as well. Contact us. We'll have all of that information going out over the next few days anyway. And more importantly, Instagram Live is back
yes,
this Friday. So a little bit short notice for me to scramble for tomorrow. I've got to be perfectly honest. Got to sort the studio out myself. So between today and tomorrow, I'll be in and out of there. And ultimately, we'll be back on Instagram Live. So you get an opportunity to ask as many questions as you like about putting and short game. I will answer other questions as well, but it is a putting and short game format, and it is with the putting and short game specialist. So you can't dial into the show. So it is purely and simply type in your questions. The wingman, the very man here, Mr. Shaw himself, will be in my ear. He's there to offer assistance. All right. He keeps an eye on the questions when he turns up. One below the ribs there. So he's there to take the questions and then he'll bash them in my ear. So come on with a bunch of questions and ask away. The more questions you ask, the longer the show goes. Maybe I'll get to eat this Friday, but there will be days that when we do it, that you'll stop me from eating for many an hour. I don't need to go on a diet. I haven't put on any weight over the Christmas period. I do need to get working out again, but can't because the gyms are closed. But I will make do because I've ordered my training equipment. I'm hoping it'll be here before the weekend. But when we're on live, you keep asking the questions and I'll stay with you. It's scheduled for an hour. There are no limits now on Instagram, so you can stay on for as long as I'll allow you, basically. So the more questions you've got, dial in at 4. If you're just about waking up in America, that's fine. I'll accept that. Anywhere else, get on, join us at 4 o'clock, and we've got a perfect opportunity to help you with your putting and short game. during the Instagram live. So looking forward to spending time. I'm sure you are, Gareth, as well, because we do have a laugh. We do enjoy it. You know, look. I have a very fortunate outlook on life with regards to, you know, if I'm helping, I'm loving life, and the more I can help you with your short game and you put in, the more I love life. So, you know, I'm having a great time at this point in time. That's why I get disappointed with lockdowns, because I can't help folk. But we'll find an alternative way of helping you. And at some point, hopefully, I'll get a little bit of compensation for that so I can keep the bills being paid. But crucially, you know, I'm here to help. And that's what we do. So at Andy Gorman Golf, that's all we do, is help you to improve your scores, to improve your well-being on the golf course, to beat your mates, chuck a few extra quid in your pocket, you know, and have more fun out on the golf course when you get a chance to get back out there. You've got no excuses. We know we're in a lockdown for 6 weeks. You can improve your golf in 6 weeks. That's a guarantee. And that's something I want to help you with. So check out all that we've got going on over the next few days, weeks, you know, and get your game ready for the start of the unveiling of the coming out of lockdown 3. So we're in it together, I suppose, you know, but we are in it together because we're in it here at Andy Gorman Golf. So that's why we're here. You come along, you join us, you ask the questions, you're going to help somebody else. Think about it this way. I'm not just helping you, I'm helping somebody else. Somebody else may never have thought about the question that you've got, and you might think, well, I've asked that question before. Don't worry about it, because somebody new might be listening. We have doubled our audience in the last 12 months, right? So that means that over the last 6 months or so, we've probably got about 800 or 900 more people following us on Instagram. So that is a big shout out. One, say thank you everybody for you know, joining us, listening to what we've got to say, joining the journey, improving your golf, but ask the questions you think that no, and there is no such thing as a daft question. There might be a daft answer. That's down to me and my stupid sense of humor, but that's part of why you love me, and it's why I love you as well, because you'll roll with the punches, right? I'm not going to make anybody look stupid. All I want is as many questions so I can help put to bed all the issues that you've got while you're on and around the greens, because that's why I'm here. And ultimately, we can keep doing that together. 2021 won't be all that bad. On that note, Gareth, another week has gone.
Yeah. Another podcast flies by.
Another podcast has flown by. I mean, crikey, you know, they are rolling through.
We're into the back nine now, sir. Into the back nine.
We are into the back nine. It's crazy, isn't it? You know, another back nine, you know. So I'm looking forward to getting into round 3, because that means we've achieved another 9 holes. And we've still got some things to talk about. I mean, it's great. So watch this space. We've got plenty of things coming up going forward. You know, special guests will be on, as we've done in the previous sessions. We've just got to wake everybody up again for the new year, but we're looking forward to what we've got to offer, and watch this space. We'll catch up with you next time.